Hello, Calvin. It's me, Codec Call. And your gripes about HD remakes, I'm going to refute them a little bit. HD remakes aren't necessarily all saying, out with the old, don't appreciate the old stuff. Some of them are actually saying, hey, new generation, here's a new way to look at those old games. And you bring up you had good points across the board, though. Your point about Final Fantasy VII and Last of Us being cash grabs is exactly right. There's no reason why somebody shouldn't be able to go back and enjoy Final Fantasy VII as is. And if they end up changing the game drastically or redoing it with a real-time battle system, it certainly isn't going to be considered a faithful remake of Final Fantasy VII in any way. Part of the charm of those older games was that they had a little bit of extra difficulty to them, and the mountain you had to climb to beat them was sort of a personal challenge. Nowadays, gamers tend to be handheld through a lot of those experiences, whereas previously you would have a little bit more personal frustration, but then again, a lot more personal satisfaction. You have to look out of the norm for games like that now, although I have to say that the hard game is kind of becoming the norm. Back to remakes, though. There have been some HD updates that have been actually pretty beneficial to people. I think that people being able to play God of War in HD on the PS3 is a fantastic HD remake idea. I think that Twin Snakes was one of the greatest HD remakes of all time, although it does have some pretty drastic gameplay changes. The same can be said for the Resident Evil remake. So it slides from one direction to the other in terms of who's done it right, who's done it wrong. But I can agree with you absolutely that when a company takes a game that was already in HD, like The Last of Us, and then about a year later does a new version of it, it kind of almost screws over the people that were willing to get the next system, or willing to hold on to their previous systems. And pricing it at full price it just almost seems disgenuine. But that's what they're gonna do. And Sony and Nintendo are both companies that are pretty famous for reaching for cash grabs, although Nintendo is not famous for doing HD remakes of anything. So it'll be interesting to see how Nintendo can, forget Nintendo. Nintendo's gonna keep doing their thing. But the HD remakes are gonna keep happening, man. They're gonna keep coming. And I think that we should be a little more optimistic. I'm a little glass half full about it. Just a little glass half full. Hear me out on that. So I just finished a game recently that the finale of the game didn't really have a tone of finality to it. So let's talk a little bit about the end of a game and the end of a game series and how serious I think that moment should be. When you end a game series, let's pick a game series that's already played its course. Well, this game I just played. I don't want to necessarily spoil the ending, because it is a fairly recent game, so people probably already guessed what it is, but the end of the game leaves you wondering, is it really over? Or is this just the beginning of the next story? And I really prefer it when you get a really good sense that at the end of a game, or the end of an experience, the hero is done. Or if the hero says they're done, they stick to their guns, and they're done. And it's the kind of thing that feels risky when you're making a game or you're writing something. You might pigeonhole yourself in a situation where you want to use this character again, or you want to continue their adventures. And if you shut the door on that too hard, you limit yourself to future interactions with that character on screen. And I don't necessarily think that people should fear that quite as much. So when I get to a moment and I watch the end of a game and I just think, oh, okay, well, I thought it was over. Like, isn't this all coming to some point? Isn't it ending now? Games that continue after the main campaign often have this problem, where they let you do something major to end the game, but then the game world still persists. And it doesn't really have a tone of things ending. Red Dead Redemption handled it in a pretty elegant way by letting you play as the main character's son. So as you went out into the world and finished up quests that your dad hadn't finished yet, they would interact with you and say things like, oh, well, you're Marston's kid? Oh, okay. And that would explain where John Marston was. So that is a really great example of it was a pretty good example of how to handle that kind of situation. But if I thought a little harder about it, I could probably think of one or two more examples that fit what I'm talking about a little bit here. So tell me what you think. Do you prefer it when the hero is clearly just fighting to another day, or like, oh, we didn't see the dead body, so maybe he's still alive? Halo pulled this on people. the Halo 3 being, quote, the last Halo game. It definitely wasn't, obviously, and having a moment where you think the main character has kicked it usually hits players in the teeth, and people never want to see their heroes die, obviously. But I think that it's good, and so I kind of beefed with the very end of this game, and other than that, fantastic experience. So maybe I'll finally tell you what it is later at some later time. One project I'm going to start soon, Calvin, is I'm going to start videotaping myself playing Heroes of the Storm. Now, I just got into what's called Hero League in Heroes of the Storm, or I'm about to be in Hero League. You have to own 10 characters, and you have level 30, an account level 30. And once you do that, you can get into the ranked play. And I've tried playing other MOBAs and getting really into them, and the communities have been very tough to get into. The games themselves, it didn't bite quite so hard on a lot of them, but lately, Heroes of the Storm has been definitely hitting the mark. And if you haven't yet tried a MOBA, I don't think they're really up your alley. I'm not sure. We maybe have had that discussion, but I kind of want to know what you think about MOBAs, and would you give Heroes of the Storm a shot sometime? Because it is really it's a different take on the same thing. It's almost like the navel orange to the orange family. It's a clearly superior product, but it's still an orange. So I've been enjoying it, but I'm going to start videotaping these ranked matches and trying to show and see and analyze and pick apart my game and maybe get some advice from players, and I think it'll be a fun project. If you, Calvin, we're going to take a game and give me some gameplay footage from it. What game are you playing on your PC right now? Can you get us some gameplay footage of that and throw it up on the channel? I'd really like to see it. So Calvin, that's the end of my call. I hope you have a fantastic night and an excellent weekend, my friend. Take care.